Ali and I haven't known each other that long, but when we did connect, I think we connected really well. I think we've both been following each other for a little bit, and I really wanted to have this conversation, which we'll get into, on masculine and feminine energy, because I think it's such an important conversation to have in the entrepreneur space. And I know, like, there are a lot of woo-woo people in my audience. I'm definitely a woo-woo person. I'm definitely a spiritual entrepreneur, but also, you know, there's something to be said about balancing the two, like balancing the masculine with the feminine. Like, how do we actually do that? Like, is balance really a thing? And if so, like, what does that look like daily? But before we get into that, could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and who you love to help?
Yeah, sure. No, I like I said, thank you so much for having me here. We vibe so much in our philosophy and the way that we coach, and I just felt instantly drawn to you and your group. So thank you for providing this sacred space for entrepreneurs to grow, right? Not only in their business, but personally and spiritually, because it's really all a part of it. So I'm a holistic business coach. I'm an authentic selling specialist and an intuitive, and I'm also the founder of the Selling from Your Soul Abundance Academy. And for me, I really specialize mostly in working with other healers, coaches, wellness entrepreneurs, or what I like to say, transformation-based entrepreneurs. So just really anybody who's providing some type of a transformation. And I love that group of people. And my specialty is helping you to get your message out there, to really create magnetic marketing and messaging and a sales process that's authentic and effective ultimately, so that you can really attract and enroll those soulmate clients with a little bit more flow, not so much hustle, a little bit more flow and consistency. So that is who I am in a very short little sentence there for you. But yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. And what would you say, like, this topic, like, why is it so important to you, the balancing of the doing and the being of the masculine and the feminine energy in business?
So this is a really important topic to me, because I feel like there's this paradigm in business that it has to look a certain way, that success has to look and feel a certain way, that it's almost like if you want to have an abundant business, what comes along with that is working a million hours and hustling, and sometimes neglecting your family and even other areas of your life to get it done, or even, having to do things that you really just don't enjoy because you feel like you have to do it. Versus really being inspired to move, taking action in your business from a place of excitement or passion and inspiration, desire. And what happens when we get too really out of balance into the masculine or the feminine, which we'll dive deeper in, because either way, there can be a lot of issues in your business as a result of that. So not to say that having a business is not hard work. It is. It requires time and attention and focus and resilience and, really being committed to what you're doing, and really, I think, growing in so many ways and looking at the parts of you that you didn't even realize were there, that maybe are stopping you. So it's not that it's easy to be in business, but there is a way to do it from a place of joy and flow and balance, so that it's not, so that other areas of your life don't get compromised, or you don't sacrifice other areas of your life. For me, I found myself in a place in my business where I was so focused on making the business work, and so afraid of not growing the business and not having the money and not being able to support my family, that I was really working from this place of scarcity and fear. Which meant not having boundaries around when am I working and when am I present with my family, which meant overgiving and people pleasing and undercharging and doing all the things so that, I wouldn't lose the client, but sacrificing my own boundaries, and then it's spilling into my physical health. And, I eventually became exhausted and diagnosed with an autoimmune condition because I just sort of ran myself into the ground. And so I know that it doesn't need to look like that. And so it's really important for me to show people how to build their business in an empowered way that supports the life that they want, really. So that's kind of, why it's so important to me.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it really is like, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be as hard as most of us are making it, I think is what it comes down to. Yes, business is hard work. Yes, there are things that we have to do. And I talk about those things. Yes, there are you got to be visible. You got to communicate. You got to do all the things that you said you would do for your clients. But often you're just making it, you're trying to control it a little too hard. You're trying to force it a little too hard. You're making it you're being way too hard on yourself for the amount of progress that you think in your brain you haven't made yet. A lot of people will ask me Ashley, how do you do it all? You have 3 kids and you're running a business. And before that, I did have a full-time job, and I was going through all this stuff with my mom. We have all these pieces that have to fit together in life, and creating that balance is really hard. And when people ask me, well, how do you do it all? And I just say, I just give myself time. I just give myself time. How much stuff are you trying to fit into one day? Is that really a normal expectation? What would you say to people that would say is balance even a thing? Does that even really exist? Can I really even have that?
No, I mean, I think that there are certain seasons of life where you are going to maybe be focused on a goal. Maybe I'm trying to get something up and running, and, there's going to be this burst of time where it is going to require me to give more hours to the business. Or there's going to be a burst of time, which I'm finding myself in right now with both of my girls, where they are requiring more of my attention. And that is, where my focus is going to be. But I really think that it's about building the structure of your business in a way that's going to support you, so that if you have to step back, if somebody is sick, if God forbid you want to take a vacation, if whatever the show goes on, it doesn't have to be where if you're not working 1 million hours a week, everything crumbles and kind of falls apart. And so, when I talk about balance between the masculine and feminine energies, and maybe would it be helpful if I just kind of explain what that means?
Yeah. There's definitely other people that could use that. Yeah.
Cool. So when I talk about the energies that exist within us, I'm referring to it as masculine and feminine. This isn't about gender. Okay. So just so that we're clear on that, this applies to everybody, regardless of how they identify, their gender. So it's kind of like yin and yang, dark and light. It's kind of the opposites. Okay.
Or right brain, left brain kind of. Yeah.
Exactly. So, however you choose to think of it. But when I'm talking about it, what I'm talking about is there is that part of us that, and we can call it left brain, or we can call it masculine energy, which is the logical part, is the goal setter, how am I going to get it done? Take the action, set the goals. It's the structure, really, or the container that we kind of implement the ideas from, really. The right side of the brain, or that feminine, is more of the creative, the intuitive, the energy of passion, the energy of desire, that feeling of self-worth even. And so, when we're building a business, a lot of times people will fall into one of 2 categories primarily. So they may spend a lot of time in the visioning and the journaling and the meditating and the getting in touch with their intuition and what do they want to create. But not in the actual implementing of it, not in the action of it, not in creating, the structure of, okay, how am I going to implement that amazing thing that I just downloaded when I was in the shower? What are the steps that I need to take to get me there, right? What's the plan or the path? And, this is kind of where even like accountability groups can be very helpful, or a coaching container to help you stay on track and to really do the implementing. So if we're doing all the visioning and all the getting in touch with our intuition and all that stuff, but we don't have the plan, we don't have the structure, and we're not taking action, obviously, our result is going to reflect that. Okay. The flip side of that is, if we are taking action, we have a strategy, taking action, but we're taking it from this place of desperation or exhaustion, or I'm doing this because I think I should be doing it, or I'm offering this because that's what people are going to pay for, even though it's not what I'm lit up inside about, or I'm doing it because the coach told me that I'm supposed to, but I really dread this. I hate this, or I'm taking that action, but I'm sort of forcing myself to take it, not because I'm being pulled by my vision, and I'm pulled because I feel inspired to do the thing. It's more from the space of fear or scarcity, or I should be, or expectation or judgment, or whatever it may be. And we wind up in that situation very often overworking and overgiving and not having boundaries around our time and our energy, and we wind up exhausted. And so when we show up to our business, that energy in which we take the action, it affects our business. And so how do we blend the two energies? By really taking the action from a place of excitement and inspiration and desire. What am I desiring to say right now in my content? Like, what am I feeling called to express right now? What's exciting me right now, that I want to talk to my audience about? And when we get into that space, then writing the content, or writing the Facebook Live, or the webinar, or whatever it is you're doing, the email, it flows right through you because you're so just tapped into that energy of excitement and passion and desire, and it lands for your audience in a whole new way.
Yeah, because there's a whole new energy underneath it, behind it.
Exactly. And so what I talk to my clients a lot about is, it's not just the action you're taking, it's the energy in which you're taking that action. Okay. So if I'm on a sales call with somebody, and my energy is that I just want to be very present with that person, I'm listening to them, I'm connecting with them, I'm serving, right? And I'm really in the moment with them. And I come to it from this space of, we're just going to have a chat. And if what I have to offer is a good match, then awesome, we're off we go. If not, that's totally cool too. I'm not bringing this energy of, I have to get someone, I have to convince someone of anything, I have to manipulate, or I have to push, or I'm worrying about the outcome, right? Which is influencing me in the moment. If I'm just showing up from that space, and I feel confident in what it is that I'm offering, and certain in what it is that I'm offering, and I'm postured, the person who I'm talking to feels that energy. They're tapping into that energy. So, and on the flip side, if I'm coming to it from this very uncomfortable space of feeling like I have to say the right things, or whatever, I'm all in my head about it.
Yeah,
they're feeling that as well. So it's really about noticing the energy in which you're showing up to the action that you're taking. And that's where we sort of blend that masculine and feminine, and that we want to take it from that heart-based, service-based space.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's such a good explanation. And, I'd like to remind people, because there is like a lot of talk about that, you're not always going to feel inspired when you write a piece of content. You're not always going to feel inspired when you do a sales call. You're going to have days where you don't want to get on coaching calls. It's like the last thing that you want to do. And it can be harder, like when the energy just feels heavier some days, like it's harder to get into that heart-centered space. It's harder to like connect with why you're doing this. But it just, all it takes is like an intention to shift. All it takes is like, I don't want to be coming from this place of, I'm not going to land this client. I'm not going to write a good piece of content. I'm being judged by other people. I'm not making enough money, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to come from that space. What I want to come from is a space of like, I'm really connected to my mission. I'm really connected to my values. Like I'm showing up on this call to help somebody today. And as long as you have that willingness to shift and you take a moment, just a moment to shift before you take the action, before you do the thing that you came to do, then that allows you to be open to a whole new energy. So it's not like you're going to feel amazing every single time, but you can have that intention. You can decide like, this is not the space I want to show up from.
Well, and you can have ritual around this as well. You know, if I know that I'm not feeling particularly inspired, I don't really have a whole lot to say, and I'm trying to like force it, you know, we can't force that creative process. So if I'm trying to force it, a lot of times it's just a matter of taking a step back from trying to solve the problem, you know, like how you always are kind of taught, like when you're trying to think of something and you can't think of it, oh, what's the name, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna table this for now, I'm gonna let it go, and then it's gonna come to me. So it's sort of like, okay, how do I plug into my creative self? How do I plug into my intuition? How do I plug into a place of passion and inspiration? What can I do right now to plug into that energy, that feminine energy? Maybe I need to take a walk outside. I need to just put everything away. I need to like not try to force myself into anything, but I need to just get grounded. I need to just take a walk in nature. Maybe I just need to like take the next hour and listen to like my absolute favorite album, you know, that gets me like really pumped up, or, you know, whatever it may be. What is it that I can do that's, you know, basically going to allow me to get back into my body and into my creativity? Maybe I like to draw, maybe I like to paint, like maybe I like to dance. Maybe that's what I need to do to move the energy. And then what I find is that by like taking that space and unplugging a little bit is often when you're going to make room for those downloads to come, for that inspiration to come.
And can I just be okay? Like, can I be okay today? Can I surrender? Can I be okay with not having the answer? Like a lot of like I think frustration comes with coaches and other entrepreneurs because they're not feeling clear today. They're not feeling like aligned with what they're supposed to do. They're really frustrated and they know it's like affecting their work. But part of like, again, this like speaks to like emotional intelligence. Part of like dealing with your emotions is being okay with the emotions as they show up. Like being okay that I don't have all the answers today, but that doesn't mean that something's wrong with me. Like I can still have the intention of having a good day, and I can still give myself the permission to shift if I want to.
Right. I think that, so one of the things for me that I do when I'm trying to kind of figure it all out, you know, maybe it's like, you know, I know that maybe I want to offer this new thing, but I'm not really sure. And I don't know what it looks like. And I don't have the details. And I get into this like space of overthinking it with my mind over and over and over, you know, because we've all kind of been there, right? And questioning, right? That's sort of the disempowered masculine, you know, that is trying to figure it all out with their logical brain, with knowledge. Well, sometimes we don't have the knowledge yet. Sometimes we haven't been shown the path yet, right? But what we do have is intention. So we could put out, what is it that I'm looking for? Okay. So like, say, I don't know why this is coming to me right now, but let's just say that I'm getting married and I don't know which store is going to have the dress that I want, but I'm starting with the intention of, but I'd really like it to be like a princess cut. You know what I mean? Or I'd really like it to, and you start to like dream and visualize and, how do I want to feel in it? Right. And then the masculine is, okay, well, I could go to this store and we could go to that store. And eventually you're going to find it, but you don't necessarily have the knowledge yet of where it's going to be. But it starts with, what is it I'm even looking for? So if there's that thing that I want to create, but I don't have clarity about what it looks like, and it's frustrating sometimes because when you decide that you want to make a move in your business, you like want to have all the answers like today about what it's going to look like.
Right.
And the blend of the masculine and feminine is also just really about trusting the process and the path that it's going to unfold for you and that you're being supported when you put that intention out. So, maybe I sit out in the yard in the morning and I journal with my coffee, of course, and maybe my cards or my pendulum, or if you like to use those types of tools, I find those can be helpful if you're into that kind of thing. But you're going to journal about, well, how do I want to feel at the end? Like, what is my intention? My intention is to put together a container. This is who I want to call in. These are the types of people I want to work with. This is how I want to feel while I'm right. And then you just sort of allow situations and people to show up and different things and give yourself space to put those pieces together, holding that vision at the forefront and knowing it's going to come together. And I may not have all of the answers right in this moment, but that's really what I call co-creating, and that we set out that intention. We allow the information to come through. And when it comes through, we then take action on it, and moving forward with it.
Yes, I love that so much. So much of it is about, it's really just about patience. Like, can I just decide, can I decide like I'm here to do these things. I also want to feel good while I'm doing it. Like, I don't want to wait until tomorrow to like have all the things that you can choose to feel good in the moment. And then can I just allow the space and the time for the thing that I'm envisioning to unfold? Like, I think like that's a huge part of the feminine energy, just having patience, having the surrender, allowing it to open up and not trying to control it. Because the harder we try to control it, like, you want to come and show up and do what you're here to do. But when you start like controlling it, you start getting pissed off that it's not happening fast enough, or you start getting really angry or frustrated because it's not moving the way that you want it to. That's when you're taking away that patience. That's when you're taking away that time for things to unfold the way that they're supposed to unfold. If we could just trust that it's unfolding for you, as long as you keep going, as long as you keep moving, it's unfolding better than anything that you could really ever imagine.
That's the other thing. It's not to be confused with, well, I'm going to just sit back and wait for it to come to me. I'm actively putting myself in situations or in experiences that I may be able to find those answers.
And I wanted to ask you about that too, because there is the other side of it. Like, there's people like me who are too hard on the masculine and we try to like control things and get things done. But they're also like, I've had lots of other clients who are really good at the feminine energy, are really good at doing things to help themselves feel better, are really good at tapping into that energy, taking breaks, having rest and calm, but they're not doing enough. They're trusting maybe a little too much. And so I think there's like this, because we have been spreading a message where the balance that the masculine is bad, like it's but there still is the aspect of doing what you need to do. So what's your experience with that in the
well, that's what I always call my formula, if you will, for manifestation, kind of like, or the secret sauce to success, or whatever it is that you want to call it. But it's looking at the mindset, it's looking at the energetics, it's looking at the strategy, and it's looking at the action. And if any of those are off, then the result is going to basically reflect those things. So if I am working on the mindset piece, I'm working on the energetics. I'm tapped into the feminine and the creative and the intuitive, but I don't have a plan or strategy, and I'm not implementing anything, then I'm not going to get what it is that I want. So it really has to be that combination of both. I think a lot of times it's easier to dream and visualize and, this is what I'd like. Then the hard part is taking the action.
Yeah.
That's getting out of your own way, right?
Yeah.
That's facing aspects of yourself that sometimes may feel difficult to look at, right? Yeah. And so I think that's where I do think that having, obviously a strategy and a plan to take that action is important, but I also find that even when people have a strategy and a plan, they may still procrastinate and not take that action. And so we have to look at, okay, why are you not taking that action? Is it because you don't know what to do? Is it because you feel overwhelmed? Is it that you're afraid of something?
Yeah.
And those are the kind of the three things that I look at with people. Is there a fear of taking that action? And sometimes the fear is of failure and judgment, but sometimes the fear is of success, because I've had that too. What happens if I actually get what I say I want? Am I going to be able to handle it? Am I going to be able to hold that success? Am I going to be responsible with the money as it comes in? Is it going to change the relationship with my partner if all of a sudden I'm independent and making my own money? And so when that's the case, that's really us getting at the core of what it is that's stopping you from taking that action. And we have to really look at that, because sometimes there's a belief in there. There's not sometimes, usually there is some type of a faulty belief in there that is influencing either the action we're taking or the inaction.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think part of the things with the spiritual community too is we've been a little bit conditioned to believe that if it's hard or if it's uncomfortable, then I shouldn't go there. That's not aligned with me. That doesn't feel right. But that can get you into trouble, because we have to understand that growth and evolution is uncomfortable. We weren't put here to just be comfortable all the time. I think part of the reason God created the earth is because it got bored. We're here to create, and part of that creation is allowing yourself to face uncomfortable situations. So, and that's part, and that is true at every single level, whether you're new or you're already making consistent five figures in the business, right? Because next level requires something different. It requires something new. It requires a challenge. So what are some good ways that a person can recognize I'm not challenging myself right now, I'm not allowing myself to be in the right energy, I'm not allowing myself to be uncomfortable?
I think the first step, as in mindfulness, is the awareness of the fact that I'm doing it, and being willing to kind of explore the motivation there, or the lack of motivation there, of why. Is there is there a fear, that's happening, or what's the thought that I'm telling myself about the thing? What is that thing that I'm telling myself? And being willing to challenge that thought, being willing to look at, so I was working with a woman in the academy the other day, and she was telling me that she was having a hard time connecting with people through private message, and how she had kind of this idea. And I said, okay, well, there's a lot of reasons why people may have a hard time. Tell me what's going on. At what point in the conversation are you feeling uncomfortable? Are you feeling that resistance? And she's like, well, I just feel like I'm asking too many questions, and they're probably thinking to themselves, why is she asking me so many questions? And it's okay, well, that was a projection. That's something she's putting onto that person. And so we really kind of peeled away. Well, is that true? How do you know that that's true? What evidence do you have that that's true? Sort of, what do you tell? What's the story behind the thought that you're telling yourself about this? And is there any room for belief that it could be that we could look at it from a different perspective? And I gave her this whole other way of looking at it. Like, you know, when you go to the doctor very often, it's a very quick, you know, sometimes in and out, you know, 15 minutes. All right, here's your medicine, or, you know, whatever it is that your problem is, right? But if you've ever been to a doctor who like really takes the time to ask you the questions and the hard questions and how is it impacting you, and like really see you and feel you, and like and give you space to share your experience and how it's impacting you. And then by the end, it's like you feel confident that that person has taken that time, knows you, knows what the problem is, and is going to be able to give you advice on how to help you because they understand your picture and you feel heard.
Yeah.
The same thing is happening if you're in a private message with somebody, if you're on a like a clarity call or a sales call or whatever. When you're asking these questions, you're allowing this space. And sometimes the people who you're talking to, nobody's ever even asked them about themselves or even cared to know these things about them. And so we started to kind of reframe it. And she was like, oh my God, that is like done. Like, that's amazing. And then she was able to take those steps to like move forward and having those conversations a way that was more comfortable. So it's kind of like just finding the, you know, stepping back and just going like, what is it that I'm telling myself, and being willing to challenge that way of looking at it and really get at what it is that's actually in the way, that's actually stopping you.
Yeah. Like you said, like, I think it goes back to like figuring out, like, if I keep facing this pattern, like this thing keeps happening to me, or I keep getting like scared of taking this action, like what is that story I'm making up in my head? And then like what you said too, one of my favorite questions is like, what do I know to be true instead? Even though this is what I'm feeling, even though this is what I'm thinking, like we have a whole well of internal wisdom. Tap into that wisdom. What do you know to be true instead? Don't let that fear dictate what you do next.
Yeah. The other thing that I talk to my clients a lot about is checking in with yourself in that, is this action that I'm taking or not taking, or this offer that I'm putting out, or whatever it is, am I taking that action from my survival self, which is the fear-based self? That is, you know, we're programmed to stay stuck. We're programmed to stay in our comfort zones. We're programmed to not go into the unknown because physiologically our body perceives that as not being safe because it's not known. Yeah. And so are we taking action from our fear-based self that is afraid to grow and stretch and go into the unknown because we don't know what it looks like? Or are we taking this action or making this decision from our most empowered, highest self, which there is no fear. It's just our pure, it's our essence, it's our spirit, it's why we came here, right? It's our intuition. And, you know, which energy are we taking that action or making that decision from? And that will very quickly, and starting to really know what that feels like, even, you know, even in your body, you know, your body, when you're afraid or in a state of fear, or state of constriction, that feels a certain way. Versus this feels empowering. This feels expansive. This feels exciting. Yes, I'm nervous about it. That's normal. I can look at that part. I can say, thank you for trying to protect me and keep me in the known. I get it. Thank you, body, for doing that. I understand you're just doing your job. But I can tap into and harness the energy of my most authentic self, my highest self, to tap into that courage energy, to take action despite the fact that there is fear. I'm not pushing the fear aside and saying, forget about you and I'm going to banish you. And, you know, I'm curious about what that fear is saying, but I'm willing to challenge it and I'm willing to take the action in spite of it. And I always remind people that they can do hard things.
Yeah.
And I remind them to think about the things that they've done in their life that required them to have courage.
Yep. And we have to
What
do
else
that.
have you
And we have
done?
to show ourselves that we won't die. Like, I did this
What do you
thing,
mean?
and think of all the other hard things that you've ever done. Think of all the challenges you've already faced.
Right.
Think of everything that you've already accomplished. You absolutely can do hard things, can do uncomfortable things if you make the decision to, and if you are
Correct.
in a space where you're willing to shift.
Yes.
What would you say, like, to someone who wants to know, like, so how do I start to do this? Like, how do I have more of a balance? I notice, like, I'm definitely a person who gives into the fear too much. I'm not taking action. Or I notice that I'm a person who is like really taking a lot of action, trying to control everything, but I'm not giving myself like enough rest. Like, how do we begin to like balance that on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on if you're too far into the masculine or feminine, but you know, if you're finding that you are hustling and you are grinding and you are too like imbalanced in that way, really being intentional about carving, well, first really establishing boundaries around your time and boundaries around your energy.
Yes.
Who am I going to let in and out? What things charge me and fuel me and excite me and lift me, and what things don't? And really having boundaries around that, boundaries around your time. This, you know, these are my work hours, these are my family hours. It's really easy as an entrepreneur working for yourself, where your income depends on you alone very often. Probably most of us are in that situation. It's hard to shut it off.
Yeah.
Right. But realizing that if you have those boundaries around your work hours and you stick to them, you can be more present with what you're doing, more focused with what you're doing. So you're going to get more done. And then with your family, you're going to be more present with your family. You're going to have those relationships. You're not going to feel pulled in 500 million directions if you're not allowing your energy to be scattered in a million different directions. You're really, you know, like when my kids were younger, it was like I work until they get home from, you know, 3 till after dinner. And then maybe after dinner, I might pick up a little bit. Yeah. But that was like a, you know, a 4-hour window or whatever, where it was just an absolute, like it was so hard to do at first. But you find that you do your jobs, whether it's working, mothering, partnering, whatever, so much better and with more enjoyment when you do that. Yeah. So doing that, making sure to incorporate for those hustlers who are not taking care of their energy, really making sure to have a daily practice. It can be 15 minutes of just something, you know, that is just for you, that fuels you. Like I said, walking in nature and really being present while you're walking, being present to the sounds, being present to the sights, being present to being in your body, whatever it may be, music, whatever it is for you. But plugging yourself in, you know, because we plug our cell phones in, and if we don't, then they don't work.
They die.
That's what happens to us. And that's what happens to us. So what are you doing to plug in? You know, in terms of the flip side of it, for those who are, you know, not taking the action, really setting small goals for yourself, I think, that are digestible, at least initially. Setting the goal, and then what are the 3 income producing activities that I can take to hit that goal? So like really putting a little bit more structure into your week and into your day. So on Sunday night, maybe, or Monday, whatever it may be, okay, what do I want this week to look like? What's the thing that I want to hit? And then what do I need to do in order to make that happen? And when is that happening?
Yes.
You know, and then in an ideal situation, you do have some type of an accountability partner or a coach or somebody to really help you and to like check in on you. Because a lot of times, you know, people just do well with that when they have to sort of check in. And then being willing to kind of look at why have I been procrastinating? What, is there a fear there? Am I trying to do too many things at once? Because sometimes we go into overwhelm where we're trying to do too many things at once. That's why I say to really set some very specific goals. Like this week, I'm going to work on attracting new people to my group. And that's all I'm working on this week. Right?
Yeah.
Whatever it may be. So it doesn't feel like I have to do all the things all of the time, but I'm doing something that's going to move the business along each week.
Yeah, I think like what you said about boundaries and intentionality is everything. Boundaries are nothing more than a line between what we want and what we don't want. And if we are continuously allowing ourselves and other people to cross those boundaries, then we will continue to feel like we're scattered and like we're not really creating anything that we want to be creating. So if like we're a person who does a lot and needs to be more intentional about having time for ourselves, slowing down, taking a break, tapping into like that parasympathetic nervous system, then we have to set boundaries around that and we have to be intentional in that time. And if we are a person who needs to be a little more structured about making sure we're getting certain things done, then we have to set boundaries about that. And then we have to be intentional during that time and start with like a minimum commitment, right? Like don't do anything you're not going to do. That's just setting yourself up for failure. Start where you are and be where you are, and then allow that to evolve and grow and change, because it will.
Right. And the other thing is really setting boundaries within your business around how much access your clients have to you, for instance, what your pricing is, things like that. A lot of times where we overgive because we feel like we have to throw everything in the kitchen sink into our offers and be available 24/7. And if we're not, available to respond to somebody or to whatever, that, they're going to leave or they're not going to be satisfied or, whatever it may be. And there can be a lot of like sort of people pleasing in there as well. So really making sure that the way that you've structured your business and your time like makes sense, and you're honoring yourself and your time in that way too, because people can get their boundaries pushed like within their business. So they're saying, here's my offer and you have 24/7 Boxer and I'm available all day and weekends and whatever. I'm just like obviously being like extreme. I think that's really important to look at as well, because you can burn out that way, but you can also feel resentful in your business if you're feeling like you need to show up like that, and maybe also whatever price you're charging doesn't feel like an energetic match for what you're actually giving out, then you can start to resent your business and your clients. We never want that.
Yeah.
So making sure that you feel solid in whatever your offers are, that it feels good to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And then the last thing I kind of just wanted to touch on with you is you talk a lot about like co-creation and how that like helps us to kind of embody both energies. What do you mean when you're talking about co-creation and then the masculine and the feminine energies?
Yeah, so I mean, this just kind of gets back a little bit to what we were talking about, in that sometimes you have that vision maybe of what it is that you want or that intention, but you don't know how you're going to get there. And our tendency is to go into trying to figure it out with our mind and to overthink it and to try to control it rather than just setting the intention, and then keeping your eyes peeled for certain situations or for the answers to kind of come to you, whether it's in the form of I'm in the shower and then all of a sudden I just have the answer. I believe in those moments I'm connecting with my intuition and with divine guidance. And I'm open to receiving. I'm open to receiving support. I put the intention out and then I say to, that guiding force in my life, okay, help me. Help me, show me something that I don't know to help me to bring this vision to life. And then I keep my eyes and ears open. I put myself in situations where I may find answers. And then when the answers come to me, so like that's the feminine part where I'm putting the intention, I'm trusting, I'm surrendering to the outcome. I'm allowing myself to receive the guidance, and that I don't have to do it alone. But then the masculine is when it comes, I then take action on what. So I put an intention out. I'm just making this up, but I'm looking for somebody to help me grow my social media presence. Okay. Let's just say I want to get to a certain place. I don't know where to start. I don't know who to ask. I have that intention. I'm looking, the perfect right coach comes on my Facebook feed. I happen to, hear her talking on a Facebook Live. I'm connecting, I'm resonating, whatever. Then the masculine recognizes that and takes that action to move forward and connecting. And because you've been given that gift. So it's that combination of asking for, being open to receiving, but then moving your feet.
Yeah. So it really is
the
like
action.
Yeah. It sounds like it's really like an understanding that both energies are important. And if you notice like that you're struggling, it's
we need them both.
because, if you notice that you're struggling, it's probably because you're a little bit too heavy or a lot too heavy on one side of it.
Yes.
And also like, we're not doing this alone, right?
Right.
Like we're not doing this alone. My job is to trust in myself to create it, to trust in other people, the right people to support me, and also to trust like that my higher power is opening doors on the way. Quit trying to do it alone. Quit thinking that it's all on you, because it's really not. We just have to be willing to show up and keep moving. And
and the thing is I find, and now we're obviously kind of getting deep into, we've really gone through the surface. There are a lot of deep reasons why we get into these patterns.
Yeah.
But very often I find that when we're trying to do it alone and we feel like we have to do it alone is probably because at some point in our life, typically when we're younger, we were in a position where we did feel we had to fend for ourselves. We did have to be independent. We did have to take care of others, and we didn't have the support that we needed or should have had. So we felt like it was all on us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now,
thank you for bringing it to that space, because it's so true. Like this all goes back to the way in which you had to grow up, the way in which you were raised, the relationship that you had with your parents. There was a very real need for you to be heavy on one side or the other, depending on, what you experienced and maybe the kind of trauma that you had. And so like I think it's so important to remove the shame from it. Like, why am I struggling? Why is it just me? Like, it's not just you. There's so much that we have to learn about ourselves, that we overcome, that we learn to work through. You are exactly where you're meant to be.
Yeah. And God, like every hair on my body is standing, by the way, as we're moving into this section. It's just like, whoa, spirit is guiding
connected.
Oh my God. Taking the shame away and forgiving yourself for being where you are right now, and understanding that your power to move forward and your power to create the future happens in this moment.
Yes.
And now, you know what I mean? It's like having the awareness that, okay, I've been operating in this pattern and from this conditioning because of the way that I grew up. Okay. But in mindfulness, as you know, it really is only about the now. It's about the present moment, about taking that power back. And it's about saying, okay, this may have happened in the past, and this may have been the story in my past. And that's why I'm here. Where I am now is a reflection of all of the choices and the habits and the thoughts and the patterns up until this point. But I can choose to take my power back, in that my future doesn't have to reflect that thing that happened when I was younger. It can look differently, but I have to decide here and now that I'm worth it looking differently.
Yes.
Breaking
Today
that.
doesn't have to be like yesterday. And tomorrow doesn't really exist. It's not really a thing. Like it's really
No.
not. Like we get
Right.
today, we get right now. We get the choices that we are here to make right now. And we can always, always, always remember how powerful we are and how we have that ability to shift into what we want to create at any moment.
Right. And you know what I find is that if you just take those first steps in trusting that you are being supported, trusting, like just play a game with yourself. I do this sometimes. All right, Spirit, are you really there? I'm just going to play. I'm going to throw something out at you, you know, put the intention out. If the answer comes, I take the action. Ooh, that worked. The more you take action, when the answers come, the more answers come more frequently and more clearly. So like the universe, because if you just ask for the answers, let's say it's your health and I'm struggling with my health, I don't know how to get control of my health, and I'm looking, and then the answer is presented to you. It's literally right there for you, and you do nothing about it. And you keep doing that over and over again, where you say you want this thing and you say, I need help. And when the help shows up, you don't take steps.
Mm-hmm.
You're disconnecting yourself from source. You're disconnecting yourself from intuition, and not as much comes in. So you're going to find that the more you ask and allow yourself to receive and trust in the answers that you're getting by taking action, the more supported you feel, the more answers. And it's to the point now in my life, because this is a practice, where it can happen in a matter of minutes.
Because
it happens
really
so
is
quickly.
It really is a co-creation. It's not about like I can just manifest what I want out of thin air, right? It is like I am powerful enough to take the steps that I need to take in order to make it happen in my life, to help it manifest in my life. But I also trust that what I can't do is being done for me. Like what doors that I can't open are being opened for me.
It is radical trust. And this is, I'll leave you with this metaphor. You know, if you're sitting at the dinner table, there's a bunch of people around the dinner table, and you ask somebody to pass you the salt. Do you trust that someone will pass you the salt? Yeah, right? Of course they're going to pass me the salt. I asked. That's what this relationship is. When you are asking for guidance, you have to have this radical trust that it is showing up for you. It is showing up for you. And trust in yourself when it does show up for you, that it's safe for you to take action, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it feels a little, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Love that so much. This has been, it doesn't even feel like it's been 50 minutes, but it's been 50 minutes.
I know.
This has been such a good conversation. I appreciate you so much for spending some time in here. You guys, if you have any additional questions, you know, Ali is in the group, just drop them below, keep asking, you know, things about this topic, letting us know like certain things that you're struggling with specifically, and both of us would be happy to answer. Where can we go to find out more about you or be more in your energy?
So I have a group called Karma Sisterhood, Authentic Selling for Coaches and Wellness Entrepreneurs. I can leave the link down below. KarmaHealingSolutions.com is my website. And got some, you know, freebies and downloads and things in there to help with energy clearing and all kinds of good stuff in your business. So for sure connect if you have any questions. This has been amazing. I love it. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. We will see you guys later. Mwah.